With all the choices of wheels out there, let me explain to you why I personally can get behind the Mavic brand. Brands like Zip, Campy, Head, DT Swiss, Envy, Roval, Boyd, Easton, Reynolds, Fulcrum, Bontrager, Lightweight, Raceface, or various other custom wheels built with Chris King, Phil Wood, DT Swiss, or White Industry hubs, in my opinion, don't have what Mavic brings. Now, very few companies that have a history of over 100 years have had perfect track records. Mavic is not one of them. Mavic has done things that are less than stellar over the years, but most would agree that it wasn't the quality of their rims and wheels that lacked, but it was more in the area of customer service and the lack of love at the dealer level. I do want to add that I think that sometimes the quote-unquote European type of customer service didn't always translate that well to what is expected or is the norm in the US. Before I go any further, let's take a look at Mavic's history of ownership over the last 30 years. Mavic was acquired by Adidas Salomon in 1994. Adidas sold Salomon, which included Mavic, to Amir Sports in 2005. Amir Sports sold Mavic to Regent, a private equity firm in Beverly Hills, in July of 2019. You don't have to dig too deep to find out what Regent did to Mavic. I'm not at liberty to share some of the crazy details, but I'll just say that they could have done much better. Unfortunately, all of the piss-poor things that Regent did during the year of quote-unquote owning Mavic reflected directly to Mavic and not Regent, as it should have. In May of 2020, the French Commercial Court seized Mavic and placed it in receivership. Around September of 2020, the French Commercial Court accepted the bid and awarded the Bourrelier Group ownership of Mavic. Since September of 2020, at the time of this video, Mavic hasn't re-entered the US market yet. It is my understanding that initially the reason had something to do with some sort of court ruling or injunction that prohibited Mavic from doing stuff, but more recently, it's my understanding that the new owners want to make sure that they have everything squared away before moving forward, and I can appreciate that. Before I say anything else, I want to add that so far, taking into account the information that I have, I like the direction that Mavic is currently going, and I'm willing to give them a benefit of the doubt that they are going to turn things around and improve in the areas that Mavic lacked in the past. I think the new owners deserve that. Now let's get back to the wheels. Mavic's adoption of the use of proprietary parts in their wheels in the 90s and 2000s wasn't, and quite frankly still isn't, widely accepted at the bike shop or dealer level, who, for the most part, didn't see a reason to stop using traditional or universal stainless steel J-bend spokes. The, quote, if it ain't broke, don't fix it, unquote, mentality ran strong throughout the very traditional industry and sport, and unfortunately is still held tightly by some even today. But they do break. Let me explain why. This is where I'm probably going to catch some flack. I welcome your comments below. The vast majority of wheel manufacturers are still using traditional round or bladed stainless steel spokes with some form of traditional brass or aluminum nipple. If I had to speculate, it's ultimately cost first and foremost over durability and best product material for the application. Anyone who knows a decent amount about the physics of a bicycle wheel is well aware of the fatigue life of a spoke. That most wheels, built with traditional stainless steel spokes, will get to the point where they need to be rebuilt because the spokes, particularly in the rear wheel, have reached the end of their fatigue life and start failing or breaking at regular intervals. Let me explain why. When the wheel turns, the spoke at the 6 o'clock or road contact point detensions because of the combination of the weight of the bike and the rider. Once the spoke moves past that road contact point, it retensions. That's one cycle. Spokes have a finite amount of cycles that they can withstand. If the wheel wasn't built with enough spoke tension, To combat those stress cycles, like the Rolf paired spoke designs, spokes will fail and the wheel will need to be rebuilt. This happens more frequently than you would think. Now, this is good for bike shops who want to sell the service of wheel rebuilds or new wheels, but not so good for folks who own the wheels, who assume that the wheels are going to last a long time. So in the current scope of wheels available, the way I see it is that you have wheels that are built with stainless steel spokes in various lacing patterns, with the main focus being the rims. Many of these manufacturers seem to mention the spokes and the hubs in passing. Some tout the designs of the hubs, which is good. Rarely do you have a company that can tout the complete wheel or the wheel system. I think Mavic can do that. Yes, they use a lot of proprietary parts, but only because they are better than what the other manufacturers use, and you can't hold that against them. During the last 30 years, Mavic has introduced complete wheel systems, UST tubeless for both road and mountain rims, 4 technology, which involves threaded rims and threaded spoke nipples, road free hub bodies that have been 11-speed compatible since 2001, so you didn't have a need to replace your rear wheel or free hub body when you upgraded to 11-speed. ISM, which stands for inner spoke milling, which is a process that removes material between the spokes on the rim, ultimately lightening the rim. Tray comp spokes, which are tubular carbon spokes. ID 360 or Instant Drive 360 for both mountain and road hubs. And the latest technology, 4 carbon, which is the 4 technology on carbon rims. All of this being said, if you take an honest look at the cycling wheel market today, Mavic brings a lot to the table. Unfortunately, most recommendations coming out of bike shops are very biased and not based on facts. This is why I stand behind Mavic wheels. Taking everything into account, the good and the bad, that is the brand that I will spend my hard-earned money on. And no, I am not sponsored by Mavic in any way. I'm just a loyal dealer and a bike mechanic who has worked on a ton of different wheels in the past 30 years. Hey, thanks for watching.